The courtroom was silent, too silent. Sergeant Ethan Walker sat in his wheelchair, gripping the leash of his German Shepherd, Titan. The military medals on his uniform glinted under the harsh courtroom lights, but all Ethan could focus on was the weight of what was about to happen. This was his last chance to fight. Sergeant Walker, the judge said, voice steady. This is your final opportunity to present your case. Ethan swallowed hard, his fingers tightening around Titan's leash. His dog sat alert and unwavering beside him, as if he understood the gravity of the moment. Titan isn't just a military asset, Ethan said, his voice hoarse but firm. His family. He forced himself to meet the judge's eyes. On the battlefield, he saved my life. He pulled me out of the wreckage of an IED blast. He sensed threats before they happened. And when I came home, broken, lost, he kept me going. The words caught in his throat. They say his government property. But to me, he's my reason for being alive today. Please. Don't take him from me. A heavy silence followed. Somewhere in the back of the courtroom, someone sniffled. A woman dabbed at her eyes. Even the bailiffs, standing stiffly by the judge's bench, looked uneasy. Ethan felt his heart pounding. Then, Titan moved. Without warning, the German Shepherd broke free from Ethan's grip. Charging toward the judge's bench, gasps erupted across the room. The bailiffs reached for their weapons. Ethan's stomach dropped. Titan, heel. He commanded, his voice sharp with panic. But Titan wasn't attacking. His body was rigid, ears pinned back, growls deep in his throat. His sharp eyes were locked onto something no one else could see. And in that instant, Ethan knew, Titan wasn't just acting out. He was warning them. Something was very, very wrong. And in the next few seconds, they were all about to find out what. The sharp growl that rumbled from Titan's chest sent a ripple of unease through the courtroom. Ethan's breath hitched. He had seen this before, too many times on the battlefield. This wasn't random behavior. Titan had detected something. The bailiffs hesitated, hands on their holsters, unsure whether to act. What's wrong with the dog? Someone whispered. Ethan's pulse pounded. He wheeled himself forward, voice urgent. Titan doesn't react like this unless there's a threat. He's trained to detect danger. Something isn't right. The judge hesitated, eyes flicking toward the tense German Shepherd. Titan's growls turned feral, his body shifting into a defensive stance. Then it happened. A loud metallic clang echoed from the back of the courtroom. The sound sliced through the heavy silence like a blade. Several people jumped. Someone in the jury gasped. A woman clutched her purse, eyes wide with fear. The bailiffs snapped to attention. Stay in your seats. One of them barked. Ethan's hands clenched the wheels of his chair. Titan's bark exploded through the room, sharp, urgent, relentless. Then, the courtroom doors swung open. A figure stepped inside, tall, broad. A hood pulled over his face. His hands were buried deep in the pockets of his heavy black coat. Everything about him radiated menace. Titan's barks grew even more frenzied, his muscles coiled like a spring ready to launch. The judge's gavel slammed down. Who are you? His voice rang out. State your business. The man didn't answer. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as if amused. Ethan's grip on the wheelchair tightened. His gut screamed a single warning. This isn't right. And then, the man spoke. His voice was low, smooth, chillingly calm. I'm here for the dog. A cold shiver ran down Ethan's spine. Titan let out a vicious snarl, his entire body bristling. The room held its breath. What? The judge asked, his tone now edged with wariness. The man took one step forward. I said, he repeated, voice steady, I'm here for the dog. Ethan's world tilted. Titan wasn't just reacting to the stranger. He recognized him. And that terrified Ethan more than anything. The tension in the courtroom thickened, pressing down on every person in the room. Titan's barking reached a feral intensity, his sharp teeth bared, body coiled like he was ready to attack on command. Ethan's chest tightened. He had seen this reaction before, but never in a civilian setting. Titan wasn't just angry. He was ready to protect. The bailiffs moved, hands hovering over their weapons. One stepped forward, voice stern. "Sir, you need to identify yourself. Now." The man in the black coat didn't flinch. Instead, he took another slow step forward. "I wouldn't do that," he said, voice eerily calm. Ethan's hands gripped the wheels of his chair, knuckles white. He couldn't shake the feeling he knew this man. Something about his posture, the way he carried himself, it screamed military. This wasn't just some random threat. This was calculated. Deliberate. Titan's growls turned into a low, dangerous rumble. The stranger finally reached into his pocket. The bailiffs drew their weapons, hands where I can see them. One barked. The man ignored them. He pulled out a single dog tag and tossed it onto the courtroom floor. It clinked against the polished wood, the sound echoing in the heavy silence. Ethan's stomach dropped. He wheeled himself forward, staring at the tag. He recognized it. And then the realization hit him like a sledgehammer. The name etched into the metal was his own. Ethan's blood ran cold. His gaze snapped back to the man. "Who the hell are you?" The man smiled. "I was sent to collect what belongs to us," he said simply. His eyes flicked down to Titan. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. Titan's not a possession. Titan was his partner. His family. He wasn't going to let anyone take him. Ethan clenched his fists. "Over my dead body." The stranger's smirk widened. "That," he said, "can be arranged." Then, the lights cut out. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. The room was plunged into darkness. For a second, all Ethan could hear was the chaotic shuffle of movement, the panicked murmurs of people scrambling in their seats. Then a sound, footsteps, fast. Closing in. Ethan's training kicked in. Titan. Guard. The German shepherd lunged. A sharp grunt followed, then a crash as something, or someone, hit the floor. Shouts erupted. The bailiffs barked orders, their voices cutting through the confusion. Ethan's heart pounded. He couldn't see, but he could feel the chaos unfolding. He gritted his teeth, forcing his hands to stay steady on his wheels. Titan's growls were vicious, filled with raw determination. Then, the emergency backup lights flickered on, and Ethan's breath caught. Titan stood over the intruder, his powerful form pinning him to the ground. The man's hood had fallen back, revealing a scarred face, eyes burning with something almost amused. Ethan knew him. And the realization nearly knocked the air from his lungs. "You," Ethan whispered. The man grinned, unfazed. "Good to see you again, Sergeant." The past came crashing back. Memories of war. The mission that went horribly wrong. The man on the ground wasn't just some stranger. He was a ghost from Ethan's past. And if he was here, it meant Titan was in more danger than Ethan ever imagined. Because Titan hadn't just saved Ethan's life. He had uncovered something people were willing to kill for. And now, the fight was only beginning. The weight of recognition slammed into Ethan like a punch to the gut. The man beneath Titan wasn't just a threat, he was a ghost from his past. His name was Jack Monroe, a former Black Ops operative. A man Ethan had once fought beside. A man who was supposed to be dead. But here he was, pinned beneath Titan's powerful frame, grinning like the devil himself. Ethan's breath hitched. "You were declared KIA." Jack's smirk didn't waver. "And yet, here I am." Titan's growl rumbled low and dangerous. His muscles were taut, his sharp teeth bared just inches from Jack's throat. The bailiffs still had their weapons trained on the intruder, but no one moved. No one breathed. The judge slammed his gavel, his voice cracking under the weight of the moment. "Enough. Someone explain what the hell is going on here." Ethan's hands tightened on his wheels. "I'd like to know that too." Jack let out a slow chuckle. "Come on, Sergeant. You already know, don't you?" His gaze flicked to Titan. "Here's the key." Ethan's stomach clenched. This wasn't just about keeping his dog. This was bigger. Titan wasn't just a partner, he was a target. And the people after him weren't going to stop. Ethan's voice hardened. "Explain. Now." Jack sighed, shaking his head. Always so impatient. His eyes gleamed. "Titan isn't just a war dog, Ethan. He was part of a classified project. One that the government shut down. One they want to keep buried. A murmur spread through the courtroom. The bailiffs exchanged uneasy glances. Ethan's jaw locked. That's impossible. Jack smirked. Is it? You ever wonder why Titan was different? Why he always knew things before they happened? Ethan had. Titan wasn't just smart, he was unnaturally intuitive. On the battlefield, he had detected threats no other dog could. Saved Ethan more times than he could count. And now, someone was trying to take him back. Ethan's blood boiled. Jack's smirk deepened. They don't want a military dog, Sergeant. They want their weapon back. Titan let out another deep growl. Ethan's world tilted. Titan wasn't just his, he was evidence. And now, the government, or worse, someone outside the government, wanted to erase that evidence. Ethan's voice was ice. Who sent you? Jack shrugged. I work for people who clean up messes. Titan is a loose end. The judge's voice trembled. This is a courtroom. You can't just. Jack cut him off with a cold smile. Judge, if you think this is just about a dog, you're not paying attention. Then, he moved, fast. Jack twisted, wrenching free from Titan's hold. Titan lunged. The bailiffs shouted, drawing their weapons. But Jack was quicker. He kicked the leg of the nearest bailiff, sending him crashing into another officer. The second he had an opening, he reached into his coat. Ethan's stomach dropped. Titan, down. A deafening blast filled the room. Screams erupted. People ducked, scrambling for cover. The bullet hit just inches from Ethan's chair. Jack wasn't aiming to kill, he was creating a distraction. Ethan saw it all unfold in slow motion. Jack grabbed something from inside his coat, a small remote, a single blinking red light on it. Then he pressed the button, and all hell broke loose. The emergency alarms blared, the lights cut out, and Jack vanished into the chaos. Titan snarled, muscles coiling. He wanted to pursue, but Ethan knew better. This wasn't over. Jack had just set the game in motion, and now Ethan and Titan were at the center of it. The emergency lights flickered red, casting eerie shadows across the courtroom as chaos erupted. Titan whipped his head toward the doorway, his ears pinned back, muscles coiled like a spring. He was ready to chase. Ready to hunt. But Ethan knew better. Jack Monroe had vanished into the smoke, but this wasn't about escape. This was a game. And Titan was the prize. Ethan gritted his teeth, forcing himself to push through the shock. He wasn't about to lose the only thing that mattered. He turned to the bailiffs, his voice cutting through the confusion. Lock this place down. No one gets in or out. The bailiffs hesitated. The judge, still gripping his gavel with white-knuckled fingers, barked, listen to him. Do it now. A few of the officers snapped into action, sealing the courtroom doors and securing the exits. But Ethan knew it wouldn't be enough. Jack wasn't just an intruder, he was a professional. And if he had come for Titan, it meant others would be coming too. Bigger threats. More dangerous people, and they weren't going to stop until they had the dog. Titan growled low, pacing beside Ethan's wheelchair, his eyes locked on the door Jack had disappeared through. He was waiting. Ready. Ethan swallowed, his grip tightening around the leash. We have to go after him. The bailiff nearest to him, a stocky man with a buzz cut, shook his head. Absolutely not. We need to wait for backup. Ethan let out a humorless laugh. By the time backup gets here, they'll be long gone. And you'll never see them coming. The bailiff hesitated, looking between Ethan and Titan. Titan let out a sharp bark. Snapping the tension in the room like a whip, the judge exhaled shakily. Sergeant Walker, what exactly are we dealing with here? Ethan clenched his jaw, something big, something he should have seen coming. His voice was low but firm, people who don't take no for an answer. And then, the lights cut out completely, the alarms stopped, and a single sound echoed through the darkness, a metallic click. Titan froze, Ethan's stomach plummeted. He knew that sound, it was the sound of a door unlocking. A door that should have been sealed, and it was coming from inside the courthouse. Ethan didn't think. Titan, find. The dog lunged into action, his powerful body launching forward. Disappearing into the shadows, a sharp shout followed, then the sound of a struggle. Ethan turned his wheels, pushing himself forward. He couldn't see, but he could hear. Titan was fighting someone. The bailiff scrambled, flashlights flicking on beams cutting through the dark. Then, in a single, horrifying instant, the door to the judge's private chambers swung open. A man stood there, a gun in one hand, and in the other, a leash. A leash attached to a second military dog, a clone of Titan. Ethan's breath hitched. "What the hell?" The man smirked. "You didn't think you were the only one, did you?" Titan snarled. Ethan's grip tightened. This wasn't just a hunt anymore. This was a war, and it was just beginning. The moment stretched into eternity. Titan snarled, muscles rippling as he squared off against the other military dog, a near mirror image of himself. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. This wasn't just about taking Titan back anymore, they had another dog. Which meant Titan wasn't the only one. The man holding the leash, a tall, rugged figure with cold, calculating eyes, smirked, surprised. "Sergeant?" His voice was eerily casual, as if they were discussing a business deal, not a standoff. Ethan clenched his fists. "Who the hell are you?" The man tilted his head slightly. "You can call me Cross." Cross. The name meant nothing to Ethan, but the calm menace in his voice meant everything. This wasn't just a soldier, this was someone who trained killers, someone who knew exactly what Titan was. Ethan's chest tightened. Titan let out another low, rumbling growl, his eyes locked onto the rival dog. Cross gave a small tug on the leash. The other dog, a massive Belgian Malinois, stayed perfectly still, disciplined, controlled. Waiting for the order. Ethan knew that kind of training, it was the same Titan had, which meant if Cross gave the order, that dog would attack without hesitation, and Titan would fight to the death. Ethan couldn't let that happen. He forced his voice to stay steady. "This isn't just about Titan, is it?" Cross smirked. "Smart man." He took a slow step forward, keeping his grip tight on the leash. "You were part of something bigger than you realized, Sergeant. The program that trained Titan, it wasn't about making better K9 units." Ethan's stomach twisted. Cross continued, voice smooth as ice. "It was about making weapons. Dogs that could think faster, react quicker, anticipate threats before they happened. Living weapons." He gestured to the Malinois beside him. "This is Echo. One of the first in the second phase of the program." Ethan's jaw locked. Titan wasn't just a good war dog, he had been part of an experiment, a test subject, and now someone wanted to finish what they started. Ethan exhaled slowly. "You're trying to rebuild the program." Cross smiled. "Exactly." Then his eyes darkened. "And we need Titan back." The word sent a cold spike of rage through Ethan's body. Titan had given everything for his country, he had saved lives. And now they wanted to turn him into a weapon. Ethan shook his head, his voice cold as steel. "No," Cross sighed, as if Ethan's refusal was an inconvenience. "Sergeant," he said, "this is bigger than you. Bigger than one dog." His grip tightened on Echo's leash. "Stand down. Give him to us. And we walk away." Ethan's hands clenched. Titan whined softly, shifting closer to Ethan's wheelchair. He was waiting for a command, he was waiting for Ethan's choice. Ethan inhaled sharply. Then, he made it. His voice rang through the tense courtroom. "Titan, protect." Titan launched forward. Cross barely had time to react before Titan collided with Echo, sending both dogs sprawling. A brutal, snarling fight erupted in the center of the room. Titan's teeth snapped at Echo's throat. The Malinois ducked, countering with blinding speed. Ethan wheeled himself forward, fast. Cross cursed, reaching for his sidearm. Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed the nearest bailiff's baton and swung. The weapon slammed into Cross's wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. Cross let out a furious grunt, staggering backward. Ethan spun his wheelchair fast. Low, controlled, Titan pinned Echo, growling fiercely. Cross stumbled, reaching for another weapon, but the bailiffs were already moving. "Drop it." Cross froze, the cold steel of a gun barrel pressed against his skull. Ethan looked up. The judge, face pale but steady, held a bailiff's pistol in his hands. Cross smirked. "Well," he murmured. "Didn't see that coming." Titan released Echo, stepping back, panting but victorious. Echo, trained to follow orders, stayed down. He wasn't a killer, just another soldier caught in the middle. Cross exhaled slowly, raising his hands. "Guess I lost this round." The bailiffs moved in, cuffing him. The tension in the courtroom finally broke. Ethan let out a shaky breath. Titan padded over, resting his head against Ethan's lap, and just like that, it was over. The fallout was immediate. The government denied involvement in the program. Cross and his men were arrested, but Ethan knew the fight wasn't over. Somewhere, others like Cross were still out there. Still trying to turn dogs like Titan into weapons. But not this one. Ethan ran a hand through Titan's fur, his heart finally starting to slow. "You did good, buddy." Titan huffed, nudging his palm. Ethan glanced at the judge, who was still catching his breath. "So, what's the verdict?" Ethan asked, a small, tired smirk forming on his lips. The judge shook his head with a half-laugh. "After all this," he sighed. "Sergeant Walker, Titan is yours. Forever." Ethan's chest ached with relief. He looked down at his best friend. Titan wagged his tail. They had won. Not just the case, not just the battle, but their freedom, together, forever.